Hi, Ben Curry, the short sale professor, and I'm making a couple of videos here to educate real estate agents and short sale negotiators on how to get your short sales approved by the banks. And the reason I put these videos together is I met with a guy the other day who works for one of the top short sale negotiating companies here in Florida, a company that works for real estate agents and negotiates their short sales. We were talking about a file he was doing, and I said, well, what about this file, blah, 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 is it Fannie Mae, is it not? And he didn't even bother to look up if it was Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or anything else, and I did a real fast search, found out the files with Fannie Mae. So what's interesting is you can usually tell whether or not this file is going to get approved if you have two things. If you have the BPO amount and you know what they will take. So with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, as a net bottom line on a short sale, they will take 75% of the BPO. So if your BPO came back at $200,000, they will take net bottom line after all the costs, real and property taxes and so on and so forth, $150K. So these are some of the easiest files to look up. And if you're trying to figure out, is this loan with Fannie Mae or is it with Freddie Mac? Just go to Google, look up, is my loan with Fannie Mae, is my loan with Freddie Mac? And type in the information, it'll pull up match found, match not found. So what you can do is, let's say you have a file, and for example, we had one the other day where the BPO came back at 280. So we were thinking, we've got a price right now of 250. Is that going to work? That was what it was listed for. And I was running the numbers, looking at it, and I didn't. Then I said, you know what? It does. It's Fannie Mae, and they'll take 75%. They'll take a net of anything over 210. So I put together a HUD. I didn't have it at this point know for sure if they would take that amount, but I had a pretty good clue from dealing with other files. Sent the negotiator HUD for 211. She originally had been countering at like 260 or 280 or something like that. And I sent her a HUD that netted 211. Boom, we had an approval. She just had to submit the paperwork to Fannie Mae, and then we were done. So that's just an example of what they will take. So if you're dealing with one of these files, these are the easiest files to do. And real estate agents, you got to also know they will pay you a full 6% commission. So you're not getting beat down to 5% or 4% or some ridiculously low number. The next most common thing that we're dealing with is FHA short sales. What will FHA take? And FHA will take 88% in the first 30 days. So 0 to 30 days. And then in the next 30 to 60 days, they'll take 86%. And then after 60 days, their net bottom line is 84%. The other thing you need to be aware of with FHA is they're pretty stringent. They only have a 120-day marketing time. So you get the appraisal back today, boom, you've got 120 days to sell that house. And with 84%, usually you've got to sell it for pretty close to whatever it appraised for. For example, we did one where we netted them like 151. The BPO, or the appraisal, they use an FHA appraiser to find their value, not a BPO agent. The appraisal would come back at 180 with all the stuff. We managed to get it sold for 168.5. VA is a little bit tougher. It depends. I've only done a couple of VA short sales. Depends on how much you push and whether or not you escalate the file. VA normally will only take 88%. So if you got a $200,000 house, if my calculations are right, that'd be $166,000 net bottom line they take for a $200,000 BPO. And the other thing you got to be aware of, and I haven't done enough VA short sales to find out the answer to this yet or not, is VA only guarantees the top 25% of the loan. So if your loan's for $200,000, they will only guarantee them against loss on the first $50,000. So if any net bottom line to whoever the investor is in the file, whoever owns the mortgage, in this case on the property we did, it was Wells Fargo, they will be taking the loss themselves. It won't go anywhere to any more money out of VA's pocket. The other things you got to be aware of with FHA and VA files is you, as the real estate agent, you have the right to copy those appraisals. You can't I can't tell you the BPO value or this or that. They have to tell you. With VA, they don't even necessarily, I don't think they get an original copy. You can actually call the VA office, find your regional office. Actually, all the regional offices can help all the people all over the United States. So you might call the Tampa or the St. Petersburg, Florida one. There's one in Atlanta, Georgia, if I remember correctly. call one of those offices, and you'll get your VA case number off the face of the mortgage. It'll be just below where they signed, and then there's the next thing is there's like a VA rider. On that will be the VA case number. You give the person at the VA office that case number, they can tell you what the appraisal came back at. So that's a very useful tool. But the one problem with VA is they'll only take 88%. In this case, if you're lucky, the appraisal came back low enough that we were able to do it. I would assume that, let's say that the property, your net on your sale was going to be less than 88% of it, but you were outside the regions of the maximum guarantee. In that case, you'd have to appeal directly to whoever the investor is on the thing, and I think in that case, I would probably have to escalate the file and deal with somebody that knew a little bit more about what they were doing and how the whole thing's worked. In this case, I didn't need to escalate the file because we were already good with the appraisal that we had. The other ones you got to be aware of is what I call slice and dice. And slice and dice, or they're really tightening up their regs, they will most of the time only take about 85% of the BPO. So, for example, if your BPO comes back at 200 grand, you can only sell the house, or you can only net them $170,000. Now, that's not a solid, rock solid number. One of the negotiators I talked with recently in a slice and dice deal, she said, I got a net in the 80s. I can't take something in the 70s. I was submitting her an offer that would net them in the 70% range of what the BPO would come back at. So here's another couple tricks with the BPO. A lot of times the negotiators won't always tell you, if you escalate the file, and I'm going to do another video where I explain how to escalate the file. If you escalate the file, a lot of times the supervisors, they've got lots of files. They like to cut to the chase. They don't, try to hide any information from you. Just, here, get this file approved and let's move on with my life. They're not trying to play games and pull crazy stunts. A lot of times the supervisors will tell you what the amount is. But another trick I've learned is you call in to the normal short sale line. So if you're calling, countrywide, you call the 888-903-1053 number. You get that number, you give the person your loan number so you can talk to them, and then you act kind of stupid like, oh yeah, what did the BPO come back at? And they'll go, oh, let me look through the file, and they'll look through it, and sometimes, if you're lucky, you can get the information on the BPO amount, even though the negotiator won't give it to you. So that's a couple of notes on what percentage of the BPO will these people take. And the reason you need to know this stuff is you're not negotiating blind. So the negotiators, they don't have the power to pull the wool over your eyes and say, oh, we can't accept that value. Because so many times, it's so frustrating, as I'm sure you know. You go out, you work hard on the property, you get a decent BPO done, everything's going good, and then what does the negotiator do? They counter at what? They counter at the BPO value. So for example, you've got that property we just sold for $250, that BPO'd for $280. What'll happen is, as soon as you get the negotiator on, they're like, yo, you got to come up, bring your offer up to $280, otherwise we can't accept it. And you're just like, look, this is what the value was 3 to 6 months ago. We're in a declining market here in Florida, and it's only worth $250 today. But try arguing that with them. So instead, if you find out what the numbers are, you can know exactly what to submit. Boom, you can take it. For example, on another Freddie Mac deal the other day, I knew what the BPO came back at was because the negotiator told me, and I knew that we could net a lower number than what we happened to have the property sold for, and what was net in the HUD. And I submitted the HUD. I think the net bottom they would take was like around 160. I submitted the HUD because the property had sold for more money at like 172, and she countered at a net to them of 176. So I asked the buyers, it's faster to see if the buyers had raised their offer. Buyers raised their offer, and they ended up netting $16,000 more. If the buyers had said, no, we're not willing to raise their offer, rather than being stuck at a dead end where, we've got $4,000 of squeeze, you can either come out of the commission or this or that, but I'm not willing to give up the commission. Instead, because of the rules, I was able to tell her, look, you got to take that 172. That's a lot higher than the 160. So study up on your stuff. If you've got a mortgage, first see if it's Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae, then see if it's FHA or VA. And then after that, most of the time, it'll be slice and dice, and their regulations are all over the board, but most of the time they're looking for something in the low to mid 80s comparable to what FHA wants, somewhere between 82 and 86% net of the BPO. So if you've got any questions, go to my website, shortsaleagentadvocate.com, and we've got a Q&A blog there, and you can fill it out and ask me any more information you need about how to do short sales, escalate the files, get these things done so we can make some money and also help out, people get their house sold, save their credit, salvage their life. So if you got any more questions, submit them on my blog. Thanks.